city.
Hallo, ik ben Benny de Klerk in Italië.
Bonjour, je suis Jean-Philippe Encausse de France.
Ciao, sono Mauro Benici dall'Italia.
Hola, soy Luis Beltrán de México.
Hey iedereen, ik ben Sammy uit België.
Cześć, tu Bartosz Polski z Polski.
Ciao a tutti, sono Francesca dagli Stati Uniti.
大家好，我是 Ryan，来自台湾。
Nibanya kelemu, habong Pascal, chutuzi alemesi.
Welcome back to the day 2 of Global AI Developer Days. I am very happy to see all of you around, and I hope you will enjoy these next upcoming sessions with us. And before we get started with those, let us quickly tell a few words about the quiz we are going to have as well at 9 in the morning, which is going to be in an hour. And there you will have to answer questions about the sessions you listened to today.
Yeah, so we're at session 4 now, and with that we're inviting Kathleen Poppa in the stream. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. What is it for you, Kathleen?
For me, it's morning, kind of
Good
like
morning.
early morning. I'm kind of like late sleeper, so hey, nice to meet you all, and thank you for being here.
Thanks for joining the stream today. Please introduce yourself to the viewers. Who are you, where are you from, and what do you do in your day-to-day work?
Sure. So I'm an Azure Cloud Solution Architect, as I like to call myself officially, if you want to put it like that. Been working with Azure for almost 10 years now. Yeah, it's kind of been a long way, to be honest. I'm a Microsoft MVP for the last 3 years, and in my day-to-day job, yeah, I'm a consultant. I implement mostly enterprise and government projects all around the world, and also, of course, artificial intelligence nowadays, and a lot of solutions based on those technologies which we have in Asia.
Okay, where are you based?
I'm based in Romania, Bucharest.
Okay, nice. All right, today you're going to talk about spoken and written speech insight with AI, because in combination with cognitive services.
Yes, that's true. It's one of the sessions that I like to present when it comes to artificial intelligence, because it kind of shows the multiple capabilities that we have in Azure available nowadays in terms of what we can do with artificial intelligence, how it can be integrated to our solutions, and so on and so forth. So
Well,
it's a
then I
pretty
would
nice
say-
solution when it comes to, I guess, call centers and all of the insights that you can get from speech insights and also from text analytics, and so on. But you'll see in the next
I
talk.
think, yeah, exactly. And if you now already talk about call center, if you saw Ignite, we had quite a nice demo there also with Seth and forgot the lady's name. Sorry for that. But well, I'll give you the platform is yours, Catalan, and we're looking
Great.
forward to learn more about speech insights.
Great, thank you for that. Cool. So I've kind of prepared 3 slides, but we're not going to go into it, to be honest. Let me make it a bit more visual for you guys. I think this will be a bit more intense. Good, perfect. So I've already presented myself. I'm going to talk to you a bit about the solution that I want to present, what we're going to do today, because it's going to be pretty interactive. We're going to build a simple .NET application, a console one, of course. We're not going to do a web one because we're pretty limited on time, in which we will, after the application will work, we will input some speech into the application. We're basically going to talk with the computer, with a laptop, right? And then based on the thing that I inputted, based on the sound that I inputted, I will transform the speech into text, right? And then that text will be analyzed through artificial intelligence to see what sentiment was the sentence, or the phrase that I was talking about. What sentiment does it have? If it's positive, neutral, negative, and also what are the key phrases that I've been talking about? Basically, the main subject, if you want to call them like that, right? To see what was about. And it's a pretty interesting tool, pretty interesting demo, because as I said, it can give you a lot of insights and a lot of information on what can be done just on top of the surface, right? With some pretty simple tools and some pretty simple AI technologies that you have and that we have available in Azure. So I'm gonna change directly to Azure. And the first thing that we want to do is create a cognitive service in Azure. Bear with me, this should be pretty straightforward. I'm going to choose West Europe because it's the closest data center available to me. I'm going to choose a name pretty intuitive for today. A pricing tier. I acknowledge and understand the terms. I'm just going to go next. Pretty straightforward to create a cognitive service. Probably all of you guys already know that. Probably have a name, a problem with the name. Let's put another name. Sorry for that. Cognitive demo 1. Let's go like that. Great. Let's create it. And this resource will be for my demo all that I need at the moment, right? To have all the capabilities, the AI capabilities that I'm going to use, right? As I said, I'm gonna transform my speech into text, and then that text I'm gonna analyze it a bit to see what key insights I can get from my application. Cool. Let's also see it here. Perfect. I have my service. Now let's deep dive into the technical part. And I'm going to open Visual Studio. I'm going to create a new project. And I'm going to create a console application for the moment. Pretty straightforward one, right? Yeah, let's just name it like this. .NET 6, let's go on the latest technology that we have available, more or less. Right, and the first thing that I want to do is I want to make use of the NuGet packages that we have available for artificial intelligence. Let's go into the NuGet repository and search for 2 packages on NuGet that are going to help us to build our application. First one would be Microsoft, here it is, Cognitive Services Speech. First one, this one, right? Let's install it here. Great, and then AI text analytics or something like that. I'm going to explain you in just a bit what these packages do and how we will use them. Just bear with me 1 second so that we can actually install it. Cool. Now, because we have all of these things installed, which is pretty good, these packages will help us make use of some already built-in functions that we have available into artificial intelligence into our code, right? So when you use artificial intelligence and when you use cognitive services in Azure, you usually have, let's say, multiple ways of using it. You can either go into the, let's say, standard route and you make your API requests to the cognitive service, and then you get back a structured JSON response from which you get your data. Or, of course, and you can do that directly with API requests without the need of implementing these NuGet packages. Or you can make use of these NuGet packages depending on the language that you use, of course, in your project. And you can use some built-in functions to structure a bit the way on how you do the request, the API request, but also how you get the response back. Right, so this is what I'm going to do. I just want to scratch the surface for all of you guys which are watching home to see how simple it is nowadays, especially with these packages and especially with cognitive services in Azure, to make use of such technologies which help you, of course, integrate artificial intelligence capabilities into your application, right? So it's just let's say just a door opener, if you want to put it like that, to see how we can actually make use of all of these things. Cool. Then let's go to the part in which we implement the code, right? Actually, let's do another thing. Sorry for that. I'm going to create a new project now. I'm going to build a web application. Let's do it like that. It's easier that way. Maybe we can make it web as well. Sorry for that. I just changed my mind. Oh, reverse. I want to save that. Cool. You get a bit more interactive. We're going to do the same thing. You have the package manager. Sorry for that. Then you get ones, and we're going to install the same thing. Off, copy the services speech. Right. Install it here. And same with text analytics, right? Great. Cool. It's pretty straightforward. That's great. Now let's dive into our program.cs application, in which I'm not going to code it from scratch because it's a pretty long code that we need to discuss about, and I don't think we have the time, but I do have some part of the code already prepared, in which I'm going to explain it to you bit by bit about what's happening there. So I'm just going to copy paste it. It's pretty long code, as you can see, but the application is pretty simple. So I'm going to first demonstrate what it does. I know I have a lot of functions here, and then we're going to go bit by bit, piece by piece to explain how that works and how it's actually being used. First, before I actually run my application to see how it works, I do have to modify some things. Please don't do this in your code. This is just for them only, right? So in case you have sensitive data or sensitive keys, please do fetch it from a key vault or something like that. Again, here it's plain into the text. Please don't do that, but I'm guessing all of you developers already know that. So I'm just going to let it slide for a moment. Let me copy one of my keys from cognitive services, right, which will be here. The name will be demo1. I think I have to do this, all my other keys into the speech. I'm going to explain it to you in just a jiff. Give me 1 second. Here it is. Perfect. Right. Now, let's see the solution, how it works. Then we'll drop down and explain how it actually functions and what are the things that we can do with it. Cool. So the application is pretty simple. It just opens a console for a moment. It can be a web app, it can be anything. Of course, depends on how you actually develop it. But it prompts to you 3 options in which you can choose the language that you want to use. I've chosen for the sake of the demo English, French, and Spanish, right? Pretty well-known languages to all of the people around the world. And whatever the number you will choose on this prompt, you then need to start to speak to your microphone, right? Then the microphone will basically register what you have inputted as sound. It will translate it. It will transcribe it, right? It will transform it to text, and you will see it on the console app. And then based on that text, we will do some text analytics to see how positive, how negative, how neutral my text was. Of course, what I've said, and also see basically what was the subject that I was talking about, right? So let's see if it actually works. Live demos are always the best, I guess. I'm gonna hit enter, and then I'm probably gonna say something random in English, which comes from my mind, right? This is a test to see if my application works and to see if English is a good choice of words. Okay, seems pretty straightforward, which is pretty good. This is the part in which the AI, right, the cognitive services kick in. So as you can see, I've speeched to text the thing that I said. This is a test to see if my application works and blah, blah, blah. And so stuff like that. And then I'm going into the sentiment analysis part, in which my phrase is pretty positive, right? 96% positive, to be honest. Only 3% neutral, a bit negative, 1%. And I'm talking about good choices, about tests, about applications, about English, and about some words, right? So as you can see, pretty cool insights and pretty cool features that we can easily use from Azure. Now, let's deep dive into the code to see how I actually made this work, which is, to be honest, not that complicated. I'm going to start with my main application, in which you will see that all of the things that you've seen in the console, inputting, of course, number 1, 2, or 3, and then listening to my audio and so on and so forth. It's actually here as term of code, right? Some simple console write lines in which I can choose from 1, 2, or 3. I'm then expecting, of course, an input from the user through this read line. And then as soon as I hit enter with my choice, 1, 2, or 3, right, then it goes and executes some functions, right? The first functions that I want to execute is this recognize speech, which is in English. Of course, you can make it general. I've made it for each language, English, French, and Spanish, to be a bit more intuitive as code. It's not the most driest solution that you'll see here, but for demo purposes, again, I split them into multiple functions because it will be easier for you to understand from a code perspective, right? So we're gonna go straight away and we're gonna kick into this function, this recognize speech asynchronous in English function, which here is where the speech to text magic actually happens. First, we're starting with a config in which we're using this class, which is part of that Microsoft Speech NuGet package that I was installing earlier, in which I'm setting up a config to use the cognitive services that I have in Azure. Remember the cognitive service that I built here, right? This, to make use of it, I actually have to build this speech config to actually use it, right? So that's why you'll see here the keys that I have to my cognitive service and also the region in which I built my cognitive service, because this will basically be the credential, if you want to call it like that, to use that cognitive service that I have in the backend. Then I'm going to make use of the class speech recognizer, in which I will take my input, which I've put, which I spoke on, right, into my microphone, and with speech recognizer, I'm going to basically do that transformation from speech to text. Pretty straightforward, right? So I'm just using some classes in which I have my NuGet, which I have in my NuGet package, right? And then once I get the result, as you can see, right, I just need to take the result from that function, from that class, and to just parse it down into my console app. I also have, of course, some cases in which if my speech is not recognized or if I have some error, I also see the error message. But if everything goes well, as you can see, I will show the text that has been transferred from my speech, right? So instead of actually doing all of those request transactions, if you want to put it like that, me building the API request to send it to my cognitive service, me getting the response back of the request, in which I have to parse my JSON and so on and so forth. Now I can use pretty simple these classes that I have into my NuGet package to actually do all of these things, right? So this part right here, as I said, right, pretty straightforward. We're doing it from English because, as you can see, I'm not specifying a certain language. You don't see any specification of a certain language. So by default, this happens on English language if you don't specify it. If I look at the French one, you'll see the exact same thing, but into the speech recognizer function, because I'm specifying a new parameter here into that function, which is the code language for France, for the French language, right? This will also happen in French language. Same goes for Spanish, right? The code language for Spanish, and then of course we will recognize a phrase that will be inputted in Spanish, right? So this is the first part in which we actually do the speech to text transformation. Plus, also demonstrated from a French perspective, just so you guys actually believe me. It works like that. I'm gonna go on 2, and I'm gonna, yeah, pump up my French skills, I guess. Let's go. Je m'appelle Marcel et j'habite à Bucarest. Oh, well, yeah, as you can see, it's pretty neutral. Yeah, it's going on French. My French is not that great, as you can see. Probably doesn't understand me that well. My pronunciation is not that great, but from a demo perspective, I think it's pretty specific, right, at what you can do. Cool. Let's talk about the other parts, right, in which I'm actually doing the document sentiment and the key phrases, because this is the second part, right, of my code. As you can see, what I've been explaining so far is basically up around here, in which we're inputting a sound, right, and then we're sending it to speech to text. The next part is basically doing the sentiment analysis and then the key phrase extraction. And of course, for demo reasons, I follow the exact same principle in which I'm having 3 different functions, one for each language, right? In which we are doing some artificial intelligence stuff in there. So let's dive into those as well. Let's go first to the sentiment analysis example for English, right? Which is pretty straightforward, and you'll see that it kind of has the exact same idea around it, based on the text that you input into a class which is named Analyze Sentiment, right? You then, of course, afterwards get the response, and the response, of course, is it's structured in a manner in which you can see the sentiment of the sentence that you've just inputted, as well as the positive score, the negative score, and the neutral score, right? So again, you don't have to do and build your API requests to send it in the old manner, let's call it like that, right, to the cognitive service through these functions, right, through these classes that you have already available in the NuGet packages. You can just use some of the classes that are available, right? And you can structure right away your code to make use of these capabilities pretty straightforward, right? So just with Analyze Sentiment, once you input your text as a parameter into that class, into that function, you straight away will get a response, right? Same goes for the other languages, but on which, of course, you need to input the language that you want to analyze. For French, FR, for Spanish, ES, right? And same goes with key phrase extraction, but as you probably guessed it by now, it will be another class that we're going to use, which will be called extract key phrases. Now you're probably gonna wonder, okay, where do I find all of these classes and how do I make use of them? The response is pretty simple and probably pretty intuitive. You can find all of these classes and explanations on how you can use them on an official Microsoft documentation, right? If you go and search for Microsoft Speech, you will find a list of all of the functions that you can actually use into this NuGet package, right? So they're pre-available, and Microsoft explains them pretty well on how they can be used and how they can be integrated into your code, regardless if it's .NET app, if it's a Java app, or whatever, right? So no matter what type of developer you are, you can actually make use of these pretty cool functions, right? So yeah, as you can see, a pretty straightforward app. Let's demonstrate it one more time. This is the final test, and we're doing again an analysis. Right, pretty straightforward. This is pretty neutral, but it's a pretty great tool that you can integrate into and pretty great features that you can integrate into your solutions, right, as artificial intelligence if you want to start doing some of these bits and pieces. Now, the last and final piece of information that I want to leave you guys with, because you're probably wondering, okay, cool, this is a pretty cool feature that I can use from Azure. What languages does it support, right? So, because I've demonstrated English, I've demonstrated French, I've demonstrated Spanish, which are pretty, let's say, well-known languages. But even if you are looking for, let's say, not that well-known languages, you'll see that first for speech, you have a lot of languages nowadays that you can choose from, and that Azure basically supports, right? Even for dialects, right? So if you look for a certain type of Spanish or certain type of English, you also have that available as well, right? Even if you're looking for, let's say, Romanian, which is not that well known in the rest of the world, right? Only probably Romanians know it. You can actually use this feature for Romania as well. So a pretty long list of languages that can be used nowadays, right, to do speech to text, but also for sentiment analysis. That part in which we analyze the text, that part in which we extract the key phrases, right? You will see there are a lot of languages in support, right, for those features as well. Also including Romanian, I guess, yeah, since actually this year, which is pretty nice. Right, so Now, with the help of these tools, with the help of artificial intelligence, as you can see, there are pretty great things that can do. I just only scratched the surface, most probably, in which I wanted to show you guys in these 20-25 minutes what can be done. But as you can see, it unlocks a lot of possibilities that you can play with. And just imagine, yeah, some of the possibilities, because it was mentioned in call centers before. Imagine nowadays if you want to analyze, I know, certain calls from call center businesses, right? Instead of doing it manually, as it probably still happens in 2022, you can nowadays implement such solution in which an artificial intelligence will analyze what the client is speaking with one of the operators. You can basically decide if the call went well or it was not that great, and then based on sentiment analysis, based on key phrases, based on the transcript that you have from the call, you can identify what was the problem, or at least label the conversation into a certain category so that you can analyze it further, and so on and so forth, right? So from a business perspective, it probably will speed up a lot of your processes. So it's kind of like the sky is the limit when it comes to what you can do and how it can be done. It probably depends on the business perspective that you have in regards to these ideas. But cool, that's about it. I don't know if we have time for questions, because probably it's pretty complicated to take questions into a such format. But that was me basically, and I hope you guys all enjoy it into this small time that we had.
Yes, thank you a lot. It was a great session again. So thank you for that. Do we have any questions?
We don't have any questions, but have you tried to implement also the translation, the real-time translation within your application?
Yes, you can do that as well. So I've only demonstrated to you into this session the part in which you implement an audio of finite audio, right? And you, of course, transcribe it from speech to text. But as you mentioned, right, you actually have a class inside that NuGet package that I was talking about, in which you can do real live transcribing, right? So you've probably seen it all over the news nowadays, in which somebody talks, and as soon as it talks, 1 second later, you actually do their live translation. So that can be done as well. It's a different class that I just showed you. Basically, you just code another class, and that's it. It will take care of the rest, right? So it's pretty simple as well. So all of these, as I said, pretty simple tools that Microsoft now gives you to just integrate into your applications. And yeah, the one which is the real live mode in which you do the translation, it's pretty cool. It unlocks a lot of possibilities that probably can be used in a lot of businesses.
Well, yesterday in our panel discussion with the keynote speakers, one of the questions was, how do you see AI in the next 10 years? And Eric Boyd was actually also talking about voice input, that he thinks in the next coming years, it will be something that we will get more used to and will use way more than what we are doing right now. Okay, many people already have smart speakers where they start to use voice commands, but to his opinion, this is something that will grow even more in the coming years. So, of course, tools like this make it easier for any software developer to start implementing this in their own applications, so we can only start learning more about it.
True. I think we're just scratching the surface, to be honest. Yeah. Nowadays, the world expects speed. It doesn't really matter if it's for personal use or for business use, right? Everybody wants to do things faster, more efficient, and so on and so forth. And AI, it's actually a pretty great tool to unlock all of these achievements, right? Just think, I know, about the most regulated verticals and the most regulated industries that we have nowadays, and they're starting to use artificial intelligence. Think about banks, right? I remember the days 10 years ago in which if you wanted to open a bank account, you couldn't have done it from a laptop, right? And you had to go to the bank and you had to be verified to actually open a bank account. Nowadays, with the help of artificial intelligence, you have eKYC processes in which you can do it at a snap of a finger, right? And you can have your own bank account in minutes. So yeah, it will probably grow more and more. Artificial intelligence is already a part of our life, although we don't really acknowledge it at the moment, I guess. but in 10 years it will be probably even more intense, which is good.
Don't we all want a Jarvis in our house?
Of course.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, for your
Cool.
preparations
Thank you as
for
well.
this session, and I hope we hear more from you in the near future. Thank you very
Thank you a
much,
lot.
Thank you.
and enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
day.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great
Bye.
day. Bye.
And that brings us to the end of session 4. We'll be back in a second with the next session.
Hi, my name is Ruth and I'm from New York City.
Hallo, ik ben Ben de Knecht uit Italië.
Bonjour, je suis Jean-Philippe Pancos de France.
Ciao, sono Mauro Benici dall'Italia.
Hola,